The 25th Africa Oil Week is underway in Cape Town, where big business happens between all the movers and shakers in the oil and gas industry. It was predicted that between 2013 and 2035, Africa's oil industry alone will require some $1.6 trillion in cumulative infrastructure investment. Regardless of the recovering oil price, funding and investment is still a challenge.
There's no secret in the fact that the oil price decline affected everybody in the industry, particularly the service companies, where at the height of the oil price in excess of $100 a barrel, the projects were, there were numerous projects on the go, and at the height of the oil price in Angola alone, there were 23 rigs operating offshore Angola. Subsequent to 2013, 2014 and the demise of the oil price, we've seen a decline in the number of rigs doing exploration to one, a single rig in Angola. We understand that there's a rig added this year and possibly a third next year, which is a clear indication of the uptick in the oil price, activity taking place again. Noting, of course, that Angola is probably one of the most expensive countries to operate in.
And I must say that we have seen a general positive outlook, but it also seems like there's a distinct lack of funding, and I think that's more a global issue. So how do we attract that to the African continent? And I guess that remains an issue that has to be addressed.
Yeah, so funding is one of those tricky things. You know, as companies look to expand, they'll always look at raising capital, and that can come from various forms, whether it's private equity, some kind of a vendor financing, or perhaps capital markets. And from a capital markets perspective, the JSE companies list on the exchange to raise capital. And certainly from a sentiment perspective, I mean, whilst there's a lot of upbeat atmosphere kind of in the audience, there certainly seems to be a little bit more upbeat presence from our local investors as well, looking at really tapping into the sector. It's a sector from the JSE which has only got a couple of constituents and a couple of issuers. So the more oil and gas companies that we get listed on the JSE, the more diversification there is that's available on the exchange. A lot of these companies do seek to raise capital from alternative stock exchanges, and in those cases a secondary listing really does make sense, because you are able to tap in the local markets, make use and tap into the local institutional funds and pension money to raise additional capital. And given the fact that these companies have already been listed in other jurisdictions, just helps from a company standpoint perspective in terms of the regulation and getting admitted onto an exchange in terms of the process.
It's the uncertainty. The capital goes where there are very short-term outlook, and the short-term outlook in the oil, in the energy is not certain, although we know that the demand will increase. I think the capital goes where the certainty is greater.
The key theme coming out of this year's Africa Oil Week is that governments are creating environments conducive to foreign investment through new laws, policy amendments and greater infrastructure, with news coming out of the Republic of Gabon that the government will be reducing corporate tax from 35% to 0% effective immediately. I'm Ashlea Evans and you're watching Business Affair.